and welcome to our brand new channel, The Neutral Take, with me, the very British Tony George-Owens, and our Swiss nomad travelling writer, Johnny Kovacs. Say hi, Johnny.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, a few things about us before we get into today's review. So Johnny and I are with the same talent agency, Newlands Global Talent, and as I mentioned before, Johnny is kind of the weaver of words, and I'm just the guy who reads them and speaks them out loud, bringing the characters off the page as an actor. So let's hear from our main man himself, Mr. Johnny Kovacs.
Hey y'all, I'm the one true Johnny. I'm from Switzerland. I'm currently here in Argentina. As to my writing credentials, so far I've written 4 novels, 9 pilots, and I'm currently writing a movie, a web series, and 3 more novels. I'm gonna self-publish 1 novel this year and 1 more next year, probably, yeah. I'm living all over the place, but thankfully most hostels like this one have good Wi-Fi, so the audio should be decent enough, although it won't match Tony's professional setup. So sorry about that, but yeah, as long as you can hear me, that's fine.
There we go. And as I've mentioned, and as Johnny's mentioned, I'm an actor. I actually specialise in musical theatre, but then when COVID happened, it was voiceover that kind of took over. So I've been kind of doing that professionally since about 2019. But before that, I had a 10-year career in the RAF as an analyst. And I think that's where Johnny and I kind of got our friendship and our professional working relationship from, because the agency's quite large, we've got quite a few people, but we kind of connected on this kind of whole espionage thing. Johnny is a big fan of espionage and things of that ilk, and I come from the kind of real world version of that. So together we kind of like had lots of talks about, Mission Impossible and things like that. And it's just one of those things where it's such a secretive world that lots of people are interested in, have genuine interest in, and you can do so much with it. So you could like easily make something false and make it seem real, which happens more often than not. But there's also elements of it that are absolutely true, and you can just stretch it and make it over the top and make it as impossible seeming as possible, just to keep the audience interested and engaged, and what is real, what isn't real, what would actually happen. There's a few things that come quite close to the truth, but I don't think anything would ever actually nail it, because it's probably more boring than people realise. But that's where we come to this little project of ours, the Neutral Take, Swiss take actors, all that kind of stuff. That's where it comes from. So we're trying to put our take on shows that are, or film franchises, or anything that's kind of out there in the public domain from a creative perspective, but we're doing it differently from other YouTube channels out there. So other YouTube channels, they seem to just get really mad, really angry, really animated about what their view is, and they think their view is right, and that's absolutely fine if that's what they want to do. They want to be funny with it or whatever, and they've got the audience base for it. That's absolutely fine, cool, whatever, go do that. But we felt like there's been a lack of kind of professional critiquing, and it's whatever is out there is normally in written format, and it's quite boring. But we're relatively young in as far as our careers are. So we're kind of up and coming, but we are professionals within our fields. And, Johnny coming from the writer side, I'm coming from the acting side, and putting our own spin on a critique. So it's a bit more professional, a bit more polished, and we come at it from the angles of a writer and an actor. And what we say is kind of from those point of views, rather than we don't like it because it's which a lot of people have been doing. So we're starting with probably quite a polarising piece, actually, that has gotten a lot of flack from a lot of people for various reasons. So we are going to actually do the mid-season review of Amazon's, or as Johnny likes to call it, Bezos' polarising billion-dollar vanity project, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, which is supposed to be the next Game of Thrones. But as the thumbnail suggests, Gollum and ourselves are asking,
is it precious? Will it work, or will it be just utter rubbish? Let's find out, sis.
My brother gave his life hunting the enemy. His task is now mine.
Speak your truth.
Stand with me. Ours was no chance meeting. Not fate. Nor destiny. Ours was the work of something greater.
Each of us, every one, must decide who we shall be.
I am not the hero you seek.
Whatever it was you did, be free of it.
One day this will be your kingdom.
Raise your sail and then let go.
Choose not the path of fear, but that of faith.
One thing we can do, better than any creature in all Middle-earth, we stay true to each other with our hearts even bigger than our feet.
We can survive this. You and I.
Commander! Wait! No! We keep moving!
Why do you keep fighting?
There is a tempest in me.
You have fought long enough, Galadriel. Put up your sword.
Without it, what am I to be?
Okay, so Johnny, can you give us a bit of a background about your knowledge about Tolkien's work? Because it's completely different from mine and probably a lot more in depth. And I'll talk about mine a little bit, and then we'll chat about kind of expectations, what we had, the build-up, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been an avid Tolkien reader since I was about 10. So I read The Hobbit, Silmarillion, The Children of Húrin, The Fall of Gondolin, Baron Luthien, and I even had an Elvish to English dictionary. I know, super nerdy. Point is, even though I've forgotten most of that vast lore, I still remember enough and know that it's a rich world with a lot of history, some of it even tedious in its detail and accuracy. And while the Tolkien estate, for some reason, didn't like Peter Jackson's trilogy, I think it's a brilliant adaptation of something that can never be truly adapted, because, let's be honest, no book can ever be perfectly put to the screen. So, in short, I love Tolkien's groundbreaking world. I've read a lot about it, and I truly think, as most people do, that he is the father of modern high fantasy.
Yeah, that's fair. That's you have a wide and varied depth of knowledge based around Tolkien. Thanks for that. Whereas I'm a bit more limited. I'm probably more closely linked to like some of the fans of the Lord of the Rings films. So one of the sort of first main books, other than the sort of childish build-up books, was The Hobbit, and it was a really quite nicely illustrated, it was very cartoony, and I really, really enjoyed reading it. And I can remember it to this day. I would reread it. And I was slightly disappointed actually when like the Hobbit films came out and they didn't have different coloured hats. I was like, oh, how are they going to do that? And I know they had to go for the styling of what they had for Lord of the Rings. So I was a little bit disappointed from that. But I've never actually read Lord of the Rings. I know it's quite shocking. I will get round to it. I've got Game of Thrones books that I kind of want to read through, because after seeing the series, I'm kind of interested in what the difference is between the two. And then I've got some guy from Switzerland. I've got a few books of his to read as well. But I will get round to it, I promise. I love the original films though, so that was me kind of in my sort of teenage years, and I remember sitting through with my dad on the first film, and just, even though it was criticised for being quite a boring film and not a lot happens, it was needed, because as Johnny said, there's so much to the Lord of the Rings that, like, you know, what you put in, what you keep out, people need plenty of context, and you have the scope to do that in a film and kind of still have enough there to keep people's attention and a story moving forward. So I was captivated by it. I absolutely loved it. Saw all three in the cinema. Had all different versions on DVD, from the basic to like the super extended mega multi-hour editions, and everything in between. So I know those films really, really well, and I really, really like those films. So yeah, that's kind of our backgrounds in the knowledge of Tolkien. So you can see that Johnny is going to be the expert in the world, the text, the lore, and everything that kind of goes around it. I mean, shock horror, he's a writer. Whereas I'm going to be more the fan of the fantasy fiction, fan of the original films, kind of more of like what everyday people have experienced of Tolkien. But I'm going to be focusing a little bit more in this review on the acting side of things, so character development, storytelling, which is what kind of we do. I think, though, it's safe to say, like, you know, with the success of Game of Thrones, which kind of takes place in a similar world. I know it's not the same, Johnny. I know you're going to bite my head off. But, you know, for Joe Blogs on the Street, it's a fantasy world, and there are similarities between the two, but however, there are key differences. And then you've obviously got the amazing success of the films, which nobody thought was ever possible. You've got the original books, which people have been fans for, and then from the original films, they've gone and read them and reread them, and there's people have dug out books that they never even knew about, and that popularity has risen and risen, and only kind of gotten bigger with more things that come along. So the standard is very high already, or the expectation of standard has to be high. If you're saying you're doing something on Lord of the Rings and all the formatting and everything is the same as the films, as it's written in the books, and it's coming from something that's got such a big following, you've got a big order to take that and run with your own thing. It's a very, very big risk to do, and to do well and effectively. So if you don't even meet part of that expectation, it can really fall flat, and people can be really, really like, you didn't do this bit right, therefore the whole thing is a bag of And I know that we're at the halfway stage now. We've both got our own views on where this is at. Well, this is as of recording. Yesterday was the release of the sort of episode 4, so the halfway point. I know Johnny has very strong feelings about this, so I'm going to try and tailor some questions. But as we've done the review, we've actually found out that I'm probably more vocal about the issues. But anyway, we'll go to Johnny first. So what were your kind of initial reactions after seeing kind of like the build-up and the trailers? What were your initial thoughts?
Well, well, that's a sore subject because, but the thing is, enough people have ranted about it, so I'll try to be as Swiss and polite as I can. The thing is, Amazon truly botched their marketing for this show. I mean, first, wanting it to be the next Game of Thrones already misses the crucial point. Mainly, Tolkien is not George-R.R. Martin. I mean, their take on fantasy is diametrically opposed. So I'm also not going to talk about the terrible interviews where the actors were just spewing Amazon's scripted propaganda, and they make clear that the show's main goal isn't entertainment or being faithful to Tolkien's world, but rather for it to be a leftist poster child of inclusivity, let's be honest. So the interviews didn't do the show any favors in garnering excitement. I mean, A, the actors, they don't know about Tolkien's world, which has become so obvious, and B, they care more about identity politics and virtue signaling. So from that already, we kind of knew what we're gonna get. So in short, my expectations were as low as they could be. So, but what about you? I know you haven't been following this as close as I have, and even though you're not Swiss, you might have a more neutral take on this regarding to the build-up.
Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose so. Like, I mean, I heard, you know, rumor mills come out all the time. You know, there was the Game of Thrones spin-offs that are all coming, and so far we've had one. So, and it kind of fell in around that time where all these spin-off things were kind of happening, and I heard Lord of the Rings was happening. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, there's a lot of backstory and history that's kind of mentioned in the Lord of the Rings films. Like Gandalf mentions all these different things that happen through the history of Middle Earth. That I was like, yeah, there's definitely, obviously, plenty of stuff that they can draw from and use in this, even if they don't get all the rights, which we know that they haven't gotten the rights to a lot of it. But still, there's enough there to do something with. And I was actually like, yeah, quite interested in that. And just interested in how they would kind of, where they'd go with it, basically. And yeah, I wanted to kind of not do too much research, because as an actor, you should, as some actors haven't clearly done, you should be doing your research if you've gotten a role or a part, and you deep dive into things like more than anything you should do in your life. It's mentally amount of research that you can do as an actor and should do, which I kind of thought, shall I do that? Find out absolutely everything there is to know about Tolkien and his worlds and all the stories that go with it, or do I just kind of go, do you know what? I want to be an audience member, enjoying it for what it is for now, and then critique it afterwards. So I kind of took that decision to be, I want to be a kid again. I want to take it on face value and see what comes of it, and that's as their targeting audience. That's exactly what I am. I'm a fan of the films and I enjoy the Hobbit books. So let's go with it. I'm part of their key demographic, really. As for the build-up, I didn't see any of those interviews, but I think what we can do is we can find the links for them and we'll put them in the description below, so people, if are like me, they haven't seen them, they can check them out there. What I did notice, though, was there was a massive campaign done by Amazon. The closer they got to the launch, every single pre-show advert on Prime Video was for Lord of the Rings, and I think still is. If not every one, it's every other one. And then on the Amazon app, on the week run up to the launch, you couldn't shop until you'd seen the little trailer thing that you can't skip, which was great at first. It was like, oh, it's exciting, yeah. But then it's like, I want to shop. F*** off. It just got really annoying to see this thing every time. So, yeah. And then the trailer came out. And I'm always wary of trailers. We've gotten, as I think certainly in the late 2010s, filmmakers have gotten into that position where they put all their best stuff into the trailer to grab the audience attention in a vastly saturated market. So, your trailer matters and you want to grab the audience, but they ended up putting all the best bits in the trailers, and then you watch the film and you go, well, that was a bag of shit. I may as well just watch the trailer and left it. So length of trailer and the amount of stuff that's in it automatically kind of persuades me and tells me what we're going to see. And the trailer for this was long and lots of stuff in it, making it look shiny, lots of action and movement, and I was just a bit like, here we go again. Are we getting the best stuff in the trailer? So have I already seen everything that's good about this show? That was my major sort of concern. Apologies, I am using notes, by the way, because there's a lot to get into. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's get into the nitty gritty. So Johnny, what were your impressions after the first episode? Not the mid-season, just the first episode, like your initial thoughts and feelings after the build-up and seeing the first one.
Well, I didn't love the beginning with this dumb, why do boats float and rocks don't? I mean, if you're gonna try a nice metaphor, make it smart and keep in mind buoyancy. As a dive master, I feel strongly about buoyancy. So then there were some cool shots, and then it went sideways. I mean, it completely ignores the real chain of events, namely that 500 years after Morgoth was cast out into the void after the War of Wrath, Sauron began the whole business with the rings, with the elves, and then he began a war, was eventually defeated by an army from Numenor. He then surrendered and began corrupting Numenor from within, leading to their downfall, and then returned to Mordor while Elendil and the faithful Númenóreans founded the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor. So it just did not even try to do the real chain of events as it's found in the text. And I don't know why the writers of the show ignore this and basically show Galadriel as a bounty hunter / CSI Middle-earth detective. I mean, makes no sense at all. And
it's very kind of what shows are going for at the moment, isn't it? It's very sexy and to be a bounty hunter and all that, probably coming from Boba Fett and Star Wars and the popularity of that. Do you reckon that's kind of influenced it, maybe?
yeah, it could be. It's just an odd choice because we know who Galadriel is, and then it's such a completely different persona, right? And then the Harfoots. Well, suffice it to say, copy paste Frodo and Sam are not nearly as engaging, and it seems like Amazon wants to pad the runtime, even in the pilot, which is just odd. And even the mysterious stranger then didn't help that whole thing, but we go into it later. So in the pilot, then we also have the elf without any personality. I mean, we're supposed to care about him and his forbidden relationship with a woman, but there's just no chemistry, and it's just nothing to latch onto. And so overall, I thought the pilot is so crucial, but the pilot was unfocused, it was fractured, there's no general tone, no direction or goal. And they introduced us to 3 storylines, none of which are engaging, and there's too many characters, none of which are likable or interesting. I mean, talk about a terrible debut. And the thing is, it felt to me like an AI spliced together bits of pieces of World of Warcraft, Narnia, Game of Thrones, and painted it with the code of Middle-earth. There's a complete lack of cohesion, narrative focus, and worst of all, it was boring. Like, it's the pilot to a billion-dollar project, and it was just so damn boring.
Don't hold back then. But to be fair, I kind of felt similarly. I mean, it fell short. I was willing for it to be really, really good, and like the first few moments of it, you know, the stunning scenery, cinematography, I was like, yeah, I'm back in Middle Earth. I'm back with the, you know, Galadriel doing her speech and stuff like that, and I was like, yeah, take me. I want you to take me back there and take me on this adventure and this journey. But then it's just nothing happened. So underwhelming. Like, I was confused as well. I was really confused by things. So, like, simple details that, like, showmakers like this shouldn't be making, like, especially, like, with their, like, say, the billions that they've possibly thrown into this. Like, let's look at the styling of the elves. So, like, I know people who are saying, it's not the films, it's got to be different, no, it's got to do your own thing. And it's like, but you're making a series based on the films and the lore of Tolkien. So, like, you know, if you're not gonna have characters that have a lineage the same from your film set, don't call it the same thing. Have it something else. Middle-earth Quest for Sauron or something, you know. Like, don't include titles and don't have the same fonts and everything like that match and then not have your characters match. It's disrespectful to the fans that actually, like, watch and enjoy it. Like, you know, elves are supposed to be these kind of holier-than-thou creatures that, you know, kind of use their words and their cleverness, their intelligence to combat against fighting, but will use fighting as a last resort and are very trained, skilled marksmen with excellent eyes and ears to look and see for their enemy. And all of that good stuff is just not there in this. They're supposed to have this grandness about them, but like the clothes that they're wearing look shabby and horrible in this pilot. And again, you're supposed to be setting the tone for who these people are. And you know what? What they're saying is supposed to be important. Every time Elrond spoke in The Lord of the Rings, every single word was calculated and said with a purpose and had a meaning behind it, and you listened to him. And it was just, there was knowledge behind his eyes and things like that. And yes, these are young elves or whatever, but even the older established elves what they're saying is just padded rubbish and does not take the story forward. They may as well just been going blah, 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 blah. It was just so pointless what they were saying. Just did not move it forward. And the whole point of anything in a story is to move the story forward. What they're saying affects some kind of outcome in the show, or a storyline, or an arc of a character, something. But it just falls so flat. And now when I say about language, I don't mean like how the actors speak it. The actors are speaking very eloquently. It's what's behind those words, and there's just nothing behind them, as you know as a writer. It's just everything just seems so hollow. Like if a lone elf wanted to go off and hunt for something that the elders have said, nope, doesn't exist anymore, we're in peacetime, let it rest, there would be outrage by the higher elves, and they wouldn't just give her a token, well done for your battles and what you've done, there's a badge, go off home, your job's done. They would not do that. It just baffles me. And then getting to the, like, you know, when she's on the boat, we know she's not staying on the boat. Why did they drag it out for like 20 hours of her looking up at this comet that's coming crash? Like,
padding runtime, just
padding runtime, absolutely. And they just should not be doing this in the pilot. The pilot, like, yes, we've said there's a lot of stuff to get out there and get in from this pilot, but you can do it with a pace, you can do it with a purpose, you can do it with a direction, and it just lacks all of those things. Even the opening monologue from Galadriel, like I say, you know, it's very familiar. It's how they started the original films, and it's like, okay, cool. But unlike the original films, they skipped over important things. Like Sauron is obviously their main bad guy, and Morgoth, who came before him, and all that type of stuff. But it was just talked at you, like we're talking at people now, and it's just so glossed over. I was like, you know, cut to Sauron doing stuff, show what he's doing, get people engaged and really behind of why Sauron has gone. I got about halfway through the pilot and I was like, so why did Sauron go? Wasn't he like kicking their ass? And then, yes, his boss died, but you know what? He just still kicked their ass. And then all of a sudden, they can't find him, even though they're looking for him in the, like, you know, the mountainous regions in the middle of nowhere where 5 people are struggling to get to. Yet he's escaped with the rest of his army, and he's obviously gone that way. Like, I just, and I thought I wasn't going to be the ranty one, so I'm going to move on from this now. But the acting so far, I think, has been good to okay. And there's one thing that really, really pisses me off is, and it seems to come through the music genres as well recently, and it's probably me just being a really ranty old man, but I don't think it is. It comes down to acting technique at its fundamentals, especially as a theatre actor, is this mumble talking that they seem to be doing when they want to go really quiet and talking between 2 characters. You still need to have energy behind your words and use your diction. The microphone, as sensitive as they are, and they'll pick up little things, they will only pick up what you give it. And if you're not giving it that energy, and when I say energy, I don't mean volume, there's got to be energy. Like, you can have an intensity and an energy behind your words, but you still need to be clear. And that's exactly what I was doing there. And it was 10 times better than some of them. I had to put subtitles on for me and my partner to understand what was being said. And that's not good. It takes you out of the story and does not move it forward. So for God's sake. And again, it should have been picked up by the sound guy or the assistant director. Like, we didn't quite get that. We didn't understand you. Can you be a bit more clear? Didn't get that. Even in editing, we couldn't clear it up. We need to redo it. Like, it's a case of dubbing. You're dubbing over what you've said. It should be easy for any actor worth of salt. I'm not mentioning actors by name. They know who they are. But that isn't just for the pilot. It doesn't happen often, I'll give it credit. But again, there's not really much quietness in this, which says a lot as well. So, yeah. I mean, okay, I'll move on. I've ranted enough, so we'll move on. Seems like somebody's put 50p in me and we've got a double go. So we're now at the middle of this inaugural season. So Johnny, what kind of state do you think the show's in? Is it better than when it started, or has it kind of remained much the same?
Well, in my opinion, it's gotten worse. I mean, after 4 episodes, I still don't care about any of the storylines. And I know y'all can't see me, but I'm using storyline in air quotes because they're not storylines. And the characters are still poorly written with terrible dialogue. They're looking ridiculous. And the cute Harfords have been exposed as like sadistic, Darwinistic little monsters who laugh at those who've died and then leave their own behind, even though they have a chant about not leaving anyone behind. So it's just so many things that baffle me. And I'm still bored. So, and the only good things after 4 episodes are about an accumulated 40 seconds of nice looking shot and Elendil, who I think is the only well cast and likable character so far. And on a side note, Galadriel is Elrond's mother-in-law and they are first cousins thrice removed, but it doesn't really show, does it? Plus, Elendil and Galadriel never met, and she certainly was never in Numenor, so if I could list inaccuracies all day long, but there's other things that bother me, like there's nothing in the text that suggests Numenorians harbor ill feelings towards the elves, and I mean, Bezos wanted the next Game of Thrones, and there's this ridiculous attempt at showing politics and intrigue with that pathetic speech from Ar-Pharazôn. And then the confrontation between the Queen and Galadriel, it's just pathetic. It lacks any tension, or you don't care, right? I mean, compare that with Cersei talking to anyone else, and you see what they kind of wanted, but they didn't get it. And then there's this whispering voice calling to Isildur. I mean, what the hell is that? We know he'll be seduced by the ring, but now the shore is calling to him. Like, makes no sense at all. And yeah, another thing, especially in the 4th season, was this matter with the old man and the boy and the scratches they have in the forearms from this hilt of Sauron's blade. I mean, I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but that's such a cheap copy of the sign the Death Eaters have on their forearms. Like, really, you're gonna steal stuff from Harry Potter for something Tolkien that's based on Tolkien, or supposed to be. And I mean, one thing that made me laugh was that bit about elven workers taking Numenorian jobs. I mean, so unnatural, so unnecessary, and it's obviously a comment on current immigration issues. And the thing is, it's really annoying because Tolkien hated allegories. Like, he stated he does not want people comparing his work with real world events. Back then, of course, people thought his war was a hint at the world wars, but he hated that kind of thing and he never wanted it. So bringing in stuff like elven workers taking jobs, it's like so weird. Like, what are you doing? And so I could go on and on, but overall, there's so little actual story, plot, and substance. Nothing happens. They could have easily cut this together into 90 minutes of something that would have been at least slightly more interesting to watch when it comes to pacing. So, in short, after 4 episodes, it's a boring, unengaging mess that has nothing to do with Tolkien's world. Just nothing. So, yeah. So what about you? You've come at this way more positively than I have. So after 4 episodes, what's your take?
Don't know if I have, but yeah, I just sat there watching each episode, kind of waiting, like I say, for something to happen. I think, the episode you mentioned where the Galadriel and the Queen and stuff like that going on, I was just like, what's going to happen? And then, like, when I finally found something that actually moved the story on and actually, was interesting, I paused it and I saw 40 minutes in an episode. that's like less than an hour long. It took 40 minutes for something to happen that changed the direction of a story and moved it on. And it's just, oh, come on, like, let's get going here. And like, there's a group of people out there in like that, like the Star Wars films, and hate the Ewoks with a passion. I'm kind of getting that for Half-Eat at the moment. It's just like, I don't even know how you pluralize the half-feet, half-foots, half-footses, whatever it is. I don't know. But like, I just don't see the point in them. Like you said, they're literally gypsies. And if you want to talk about, you know, the whole inclusion thing, you know, they've massively racially stereotyped the Irish gypsies. That the accents have been poorly executed as well. And like you said, the celebrator that they weren't left behind, and we don't leave anyone behind, even though we do. I don't understand it. And for me, that final episode is the exact reason why people fell out of love with The Walking Dead. They took all those potential storylines and loads of characters and then focused one episode on one instance that's happening. It's just dull, and again, nothing actually did happen. The only thing I kind of really care about at the moment is, who is the mystery man? Is he Gandalf? Which is all the rumours that are spreading around all of the internet, but it's one that my partner said, you know, is he Gandalf? And I was like, I don't know, maybe. Looks kind of wizardy, he's tall, and he obviously has some kind of power. Is it Gandalf or is it not? And they'll probably draw that out for as long as they can do, because as soon as it's revealed, I don't care anymore. Unless it's going to have some major impact on storylines, and that's what I can't see. I can't see any merge of any storyline at the moment that's going to happen. It is just, I mean, like, also, like, they've called it the Rings of Power, and Sauron is obviously like one of the key elements to this, right? Okay, you don't want to show him because there's that kind of mystery of where he is. Okay, but I mean, like, they could have called it the Quest for Sauron, and then it'll be more accurate. The Rings of Power is obviously a key moment that's mentioned in the films, mentioned obviously in the lore and the books. So don't label. It's like trying to label something as a Christmas dinner and then giving me a plate, a knife, a fork, and everything to consume, and then make me sit there wait while they serve me just a mess of nothing with no hint of turkey. Like, just give me something to say. This is where it's going. We're going to the origins of Mordor, and this is how it all kind of started. It's just like, I know what the writers are trying to do. They're trying to like make the audience figure it out for themselves or discover it along with the characters at the same time. But there's a way of doing that, and there's a way of doing that very well. And for me, it just ain't doing it. Ain't doing it any justice. There's a part of me that's kind of like, you could maybe have this show on in the background, and you would kind of get something from it. A little bit of storyline, like I say. But I mean, you're talking about what's supposed to be, what would be called in video game world, a AAA platinum title. Like, you know, this is supposed to be challenging Game of Thrones, which is out at the same time, or roughly the same time. And, you know, what are you bringing to the table other than lack of story, lack of momentum, and all this kind of stuff? So that's where we're at now. What do you... A very open question, but what do you want to see from the rest of this season, Johnny?
Well, I want to see things actually happen. I want the characters to be likable. I want to hear people speak in a manner that doesn't make my non-elvish styled hair curl. But I think, especially from a writer's perspective, I want to see any trace of evidence that the writers and showrunners have actually a hint of a clue what to do. So far, I've seen figuratively nothing, expensive nothing, but nothing nonetheless, which, given the price tag, is just insane.
It is a little bit like they're kind of like making a show on the fly. Like, are they writing it as they're filming it and just kind of hoping it figures itself out? So I just want a coherent story, and like not just shiny scenery and half decent CGI. And let's face it, there is some really, really good CGI, and then the stuff that it just looks like really stopgap animation from the 50s King Kong films and Godzilla. Or like, expecting James T. Kirk to come out and start fighting the guy in costume. Like, it's just commit to something, or like, maybe not put all your money into like the glorious scenery and the CGI and whatever, and pull it back and put something into the story. And there's just no suspense of disbelief. I want progression. I want to like the characters. Like you said, the forbidden love between the elf and the human female is like, well, I don't care because I know nothing about their characters. I know nothing about their background other than what I've been told. And it's like, well, there's no backstory for that development. So they could have, like, that's the kind of stuff they need to be adding more of. Character development, where these people have come from, why the story that you're trying to tell is interesting for them and different for them, and how they should be react, how we expect them to react, and why they don't react in that kind of way. All that kind of good storytelling just not happening at the moment. So I want to see that kind of cohesion, and I want to see how all these stories do come together, if they do at all. And if they don't, then I'm going to be sorely disappointed, because again, it's just, you might as well have had 3 or 4 different spin-off series and done them separately.
Yeah.
And I actually, like, if it was only booked for 1 season, I don't know how many seasons it's been booked for or been prepared for or whatever.
I think 5.
5.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was an investor and it was pitched, I'd be like, I'd want work done on it, and then seeing this end result halfway, I'd be saying, you better deliver at the end of this season, or you're not getting a season 2.
Yeah.
So, is there anything at all that you're looking forward to seeing? I know we've both been quite negative, but is there anything at all from where we are that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff we could see. I mean, I would like to see how Sauron manipulates Celebrimbor and the other elves when forging the rings. Remember, he was a smart, beautiful being back then. People respected him, and he was really good at crafting things. So that would be interesting to see. I hope we're gonna see the Númenóreans kick Sauron's ass in this first war. I would like to see him worming his way up the Númenórean ladder to High Priest and seducing Ar-Pharazôn. So that would be interesting. You could have this kind of court intrigue that Game of Thrones did so right. There's a chance. So that would be nice. I would like to see Númenor get epically destroyed, as foreshadowed so crudely in episode 4 with the wave. So this could be something. Roland Emmerich, probably they should get him for these scenes. Just have Númenor just wasted by a tsunami. That would be really cool. So there's a lot of things that I think they're gonna do, or at least approach, because they have to. But I have a little hope that they'll execute this in a decent way. But yeah, there would be a lot of cool stuff.
Let's
true.
See, that's just a point. I've just suddenly had a bit of a thought, and the Palanthea where it does the foreshadowing of the destruction.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the guy with the lore and everything like that. But in the Lord of the Rings films, when Saruman reveals that he's got one, and the reason they cover it up is because people can kind of like use them as like a portal to see between each Palanthea, and you can use them to see things that are happening. But can you actually? Is there anything in the lore that says that you can see things that are going to happen?
Not explicitly. I mean, even in the trilogy, they don't go that deep into it. It's more like a walkie-talkie with visuals, but
yeah.
And like compared to with Galadriel's mirror, the water where you see possible futures. So they kind of seem to have mixed up this with the Palantir.
I mean, the Palantir is a different one. It looks different and it is different. So maybe there's something in that and it's corrupted or something, or who knows?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, this is before, right? So this is supposed to be 2,000-3,000 years before the trilogy. So maybe the Palantir work differently because Sauron at that point wouldn't have one yet and controlled all of them. I mean, that's how he got Saruman. That's how he got Denethor. But yeah, again, it's just like an Easter egg. We had these Palantir. They're really cool. Let's put one in the show.
And then Mithril again with the dwarves as well.
Yeah, just like Easter eggs. Oh, look, this is actually Tolkien. I know it doesn't look like it, doesn't sound like it, but here's some bits and pieces to remind you we're still in Middle Earth.
It's like, yeah, they're trying to link stuff from this to Lord of the Rings. It's like, well, that's 2,000 years away. Like, link that you've got in this series now together, all stories. And again, like I've said about the Mystery Man, that reveal's got to be kind of really careful as well, because, you know, people think it's Gandalf. If it is Gandalf, then reveal it in a really, really good way, as in I don't know any of Gandalf's origin story. There probably is plenty of stuff in there, but if they butcher it, that could really be like, that could let people down that are excited to see if that is Gandalf, and they could really, really screw themselves over by butchering that. But I kind of, I get what you mean about like Sauron. I kind of want to see him in human form. I want to see what he's like, other than this dark, shadowy thing that runs away from a fight. But nothing's really, because I mean, it has been alluded. I think it's been alluded to that he is in human form. I'm sure I remember seeing something in the series that he's in human form.
He would be, yeah. At that point, he definitely would be in human form, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're expecting to see. So let's bring him into it now. It's time to have one of your main characters actually be revealed, or at least be hinted at that this is him. And I want to get rid of that kind of geopolitical landscape. I hope they get rid of it, because, like you've said, I feel they're trying to do a Game of Thrones and they're not in a position that they can do it. So just if you can't do something well, don't do it at all. You've got plenty of other stuff that you can be doing. Focus on that. You know, like, we know there's friction between the dwarves and the elves. You know, nobody tosses a dwarf, and all that kind of stuff. You know, work on that kind of background. Let's deep dive into that a bit. And, you know, why is Elrond like there? And that he's obviously got a friendship with the dwarves, but why does he seem to be the only one that has a friendship with the dwarves? And why do they kind of accept him for it? You know, all that backstory could be quite interesting. You know, a story.
Yeah, a story.
A story. It'd be nice. But okay, I think we've talked through everything that we want to discuss with this. What I thought we would do is kind of, it's weird to do it midway, but I think it's kind of appropriate. So like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes have their scores and public scores and stuff like that. And that is what they have scored it as of recording today. And we're kind of going to put our mid-season score in. So what we'll do is we'll talk again at the end of the series, give a full critique, and kind of see, has our score gone up or down based on what we expect or kind of want to see from this series. And the way we're going to do that is, well, TNT, the neutral take, dynamite. So we're doing sticks of dynamite. You know, 1 to 10, and yeah, that's how we're going to do this. So what we'll do is, because we might have special guests on talking about other shows, or you know, we might get other people or the professionals involved in future talks. So what we'll do is, for the amount of people that we have in each episode that we cover, we will take everyone's score, we'll average it out, and that is the official neutral take score for the mid-season or the end of season review, and we'll do it like that. And I think that's the fairest way to do it, because people's opinions matter. At least, you know, our opinions obviously matter because we're making it. But, you know, including other people in there as well, it'll give it a full rounded thing. So that's where our score will come from. So you can see the Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb scores so far on there as of recording. So, Johnny, I'll let you go first. I don't think you're going to need many matches to light any fuses, but I'm going to ask you anyway, what is your score for the Rings of Power mid-season and why?
So if we say that 5 sticks represent meh, 1 absolute garbage, and 10 like the first season of Game of Thrones, then I would have to give Rings of Power as of now, 2 sticks of dynamite out of 10. It's absolute garbage, but there are some nice looking shots that took some talented people. The music at times, it's decent. And I got to see Casa Doom before it went all tits up. And Elendil is nicely cast, so that gets it 1 stick more than absolute garbage. So 2 sticks.
Okay. That's fair. And despite what I've said so far in this, I'm actually going to give it slightly better than Johnny. I'm going to go for about a 4 because I've seen a lot worse out there. And some of the production value, like Johnny said, has been excellent and really, really good. And there's some interest. There is something there that could grow. And, if it does, it could be excellent. And, we could look quite foolish for giving it such a pandering. But again, that's kind of what we want. We want it to get better because we want to enjoy it. So that's the thing. Potential doesn't make a show. It kills a show, if anything. So get it going now. Get these stories really, really well founded and established and get them out for the end. Otherwise, I've not got much hope for it. So, as I flick over my script, the official NGT score is 3 sticks out of 10. So not great in our opinion, but surely from here, the only way is up. I mean,
well, let's hope so. Yeah.
If it goes down, we're gonna have to start doing maybe gunpowder.
Yeah.
How many stacks of gunpowder can we give it? And that's our negative TNT. But anyway, that concludes our kind of first foray into this world of critique and reviewing. That's the kind of style that we're going for. Our neutral take on the story. So our next session will be the mid-season review of Game of Thrones: The House of the Dragon, which has a lot to deliver, to be fair. I mean, it's not going to be an easy task. They've got the OG Game of Thrones to go against, minus the last season. Not getting into that now because we'll be here for another hour. What else we got coming, Johnny?
So we're also going to do we're going to do the mid-season review of House of the Dragon and then the end of season for both. And then we'll do a season review for She-Hulk, for Rick and Morty season 6, for the new Star Wars property Andor, and I'll probably do an in-depth analysis of the 2010 show Nikita and how it compares to how Hollywood nowadays portrays female character. And this analysis, I'll point out what Nikita did so well and how modern Hollywood is failing the portrayal of strong female characters today. Also, we're planning to do a first sketch in a few weeks, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. Should be a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun to us to do. But if you have any comments, questions, agree, disagree, want to see us do a deep dive into other shows that you like, message them in the comments below, and we'll try and either respond or reply to them in the next video or whatever. We'll do something anyway. We want to try and kind of create a community where it's not just us talking. We want to start conversation why storytelling is important and why bad storytelling needs to be improved, as I think we've proved in this case. But again, it's our opinion. That matters to us. What's your opinion? What's your take on it? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe to us, and hit the notification bell so that you can get updates of when the next videos are coming out. We've been your hosts, Tony George-Owens and the Johnny from where are you right now? Are you Argentina? Argentina. Yeah. Johnny from Argentina, originally from Switzerland, and he's probably going to be somewhere new. Maybe we could do that. Maybe we could have a competition of where's Johnny going to be this year. We'll track him. Johnny Tracker. But thanks for coming, guys. See you next time for The Neutral Take.
Bye, guys.